Today we're diving into the incredible story and ideas of Viktor Frankl. Now, he was a psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor, and what he went through is, well, it's almost unimaginable. But through all of that, he discovered something absolutely fundamental about what it means to be human. And honestly, it's a truth that can completely change how you and I face our own struggles, big or small. So let's get into his search for meaning.
So this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This is the question that drove everything for Frankl. And it wasn't some academic thought experiment for him. He actually lived it. I mean, think about it. When you strip away absolutely everything, your food, your comfort, your freedom, your family, even your own name, what is left? What on earth is that one thing that keeps a person going?
And here's his answer, borrowing a powerful line from the philosopher Nietzsche that pretty much became the core of his entire philosophy. What he realized, what he saw with his own eyes, was that the critical factor for survival wasn't physical strength, it wasn't even luck, it was meaning. If you have a powerful, compelling reason to live, that's your why, it gives you the strength to endure almost any how, no matter how brutal the circumstances. Okay, so to really get the weight of this idea, we've got to back up a little. Let's look at who Viktor Frankl was before his entire world was ripped apart. He was already a rising star, a brilliant psychiatrist in Vienna, and he was completely fascinated by this one big question: what truly drives us as human beings?
At the time, the world of psychology was dominated by these two giants, right? Yet Freud, who said everything is about our will to pleasure, we just want to feel good and avoid pain. Then you had Adler, who said, no, it's about the will to power. We want to overcome our feelings of inferiority. But Frankl, he stepped up and said, I think you're both missing the point. He argued that neither pleasure nor power could explain why people endure the absolute worst kinds of suffering. He proposed this third way, what he called the will to meaning. His big idea was that deep down, we are creatures who crave purpose more than anything else.
And this is where everything changes. See, this wasn't just some theory for him to debate with his colleagues over coffee in some fancy Viennese cafe. Oh no. This core belief of his, that our deepest drive is for meaning, was about to be put to the test in the most brutal, horrific environment you could possibly imagine.
All right, now we move into the abyss. We're talking about Frankl's time in the Nazi concentration camps. This is the fire, the crucible, where his theory wasn't just tested, it was forged into this powerful philosophy for how to survive and, really, how to live. When he entered the camps, the dehumanization was total and absolute. I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around it. This wasn't just about losing your stuff. I mean, look at this list. He lost his parents, his brother, his wife who was pregnant. His name was taken from him, replaced by a number. He lost his entire career, his identity as a doctor. And maybe one of the most crushing blows, they confiscated the manuscript of his life's work, the book he had poured everything into. In every single way you can measure a person from the outside, he was erased.
But in that absolute nothingness, he found something. It was an incredible discovery. The guards, they could control his body, they could control his surroundings, they could even decide if he lived or died. But there was one single thing they could never touch, and that was his inner freedom. He realized no matter what they did to him on the outside, he still had the ultimate power to choose his attitude, to choose how he would respond on the inside.
So as he looked around, he started to notice something about the people who managed to hold on against all odds. He saw three main ways they found meaning. First up, purpose, having a goal for the future. For Frankl himself, it was this burning mission to one day get out and rewrite that lost book. Second, love. He would have these incredibly detailed, imaginary conversations with his wife in his mind. It made him realize that love is something so powerful, it can exist even when the person is gone. And third, and this one is maybe the most radical of all, finding meaning in the suffering itself, by choosing how you endure it, by facing it with courage and dignity. So, after he was finally liberated, Frankl didn't just write a book about his experiences and leave it at that. No, he took everything he had learned in that hell and turned it into a gift for the rest of the world. He actually created a whole new form of psychotherapy based on these insights. He called it logotherapy. That comes from the Greek word logos, which means, you guessed it, meaning. So it's literally meaning therapy. The whole idea is built on that one core belief we talked about earlier, that our primary motivation, our deepest drive as humans, is to find a meaning in our lives. It all boils down to these three core principles. First, and this is huge, life has meaning no matter what, under all circumstances. Second, we are all driven by this powerful inner will to meaning. We're hardwired to look for it. And third, we always have the freedom to find that meaning. We can find it in what we do,
in who we love, or in the attitude we choose when we're faced with something we just can't change. And this quote, this is probably his most famous, and for good reason. It just perfectly sums up the whole idea. See, logotherapy isn't about sitting around and waiting for your problems to go away. It's about being active. It's about taking responsibility. It's realizing that when you're stuck, when you absolutely cannot change the situation you're in, that's when you get a new challenge, the challenge to change yourself. The whole game moves inward.
So, okay, this is an incredible story from the 1940s, but why are we talking about it now? Why does it matter so much to us today? Well, that's what we're going to get into right now, how all of this connects directly to our lives.
Get this, Frankl totally saw our modern problems coming. He warned about something he called the existential vacuum. It's this deep feeling of emptiness that people can have even when they live in comfortable, prosperous societies. He said people would feel depressed and that their lives were meaningless, not because they didn't have enough stuff or enough power, but because they'd lost their sense of purpose. Sound familiar? It's more relevant now than ever.
So what's the cure? What's the antidote to that existential vacuum? Well, Frankl's answer is basically the same thing he learned in the camps. There are 3 paths. We find meaning by creating something, putting our work, our art, our contribution out into the world. We find it by loving someone or something, by making those deep connections. And we find it through suffering with courage, by choosing a noble attitude when we're faced with hardship we can't avoid.
I love this because it makes it so clear. Meaning isn't some passive thing you just stumble upon one day, like finding a $20 bill on the street. No, it's a responsibility. It's about looking at the challenges life throws at you and actively working to answer them, to fulfill the tasks that are set in front of you.
And this is the big switch. This is the perspective shift that changes everything. Most of us go through life asking, what can I get from life? What do I expect to receive? Frankl says, nope, you've got it backward. He flips the whole question on its head. The real question, the much more powerful question is, what does life expect from me? What unique contribution is life asking me to make? It's a total game changer.
And so, that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? Everything Frankl lived through, everything he taught, it all leads to this one very personal, very powerful question for you. He showed us that meaning isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's not something that's given to you, it's something you choose. So in your work, in your relationships, and in how you face your own challenges, the choice is always yours. The only question left is, what meaning will you choose?